Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Jack Bybee, and he is going to tell us about his near-death experience.
Oh, I'm on, am I?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Many thanks for having me on,
You're
Peggy.
welcome.
The NDE is a totally changing experience. It occurred to me in 1972. I was trying to get out of apartheid to South Africa, and I burnt the candle at like 2 3/4 ends. I was working 2, 3 jobs, one thing and another. I contracted the double pneumonia and some other nasty stuff. And in the end, I was too weak to continue. Um, I'm not certain how many of your readers or your viewers are familiar with the NDE, but I'll give you a brief. If this is NDE TV, I presume they know a bit about it. Well, I just some background. My hometown is in the beautiful area of the Western Cape of South Africa. I used to go to English-speaking anti-apartheid, the congregational church in my hometown, but in hospital, I kept getting messages. I kept seeing a painting, what seemed to be like a painting on the hospital wall. That, to me, I now realize was the deathbed vision. A beautiful figure, long auburn hair on his shoulders, and the blood still flowing from his side. Come, beckoning, come, answer the call. I didn't know what was happening. Nothing in organized religion that I'd learned until then prepared me for what I encountered. There was nothing. Anyway, in spirit, eventually 2 o'clock in the morning, I was so weak, I was so tired. Why are these angelic voices? Why are they calling me? All right, I give up. And of course, as soon as I said yes, my everything changed, because I all of a sudden I was looking down on my body, or what I couldn't recognize, but I now realize it was the form of my body lying on the hospital bed in the corner. And here I was feeling rather perky, I flew up in spirit, and in teaching myself to navigate by spirit, I flew right through the filament of the light bulb in the hospital ceiling, in the ward of the hospital. And again, in spirit, very guiltily, I looked over my shoulder, or where my shoulder would be, to see if the light bulb was still burning. It was. And then I realized how to navigate. If I thought, don't go down the passage, just go up through the hospital ceiling, I did. And all of a sudden I was outside above the roof, looking down on the bell tower, or what was the bell tower of the hospital, where I noticed that the side facing the pitched roof of the hospital was not painted. It was pure copper. But sides facing the road and the mountain, Table Mountain, that happened to be painted. Well, that I then was able to prove to my neurologist, who was also a rock climber like me, after I returned and all the rest of it, I told him that the inside of the bell tower hadn't been painted. So apparently, while I'm lying recovering in the hospital ward, he took some medical students up to the bell tower, and I proved my case. So anyway, but I digress. I was looking down 2 o'clock in the morning, as I said, onto Cape Town, the mother's city, beautiful, beautiful city. The Indian Ocean was moonlit on my right-hand side as I looked down, and the Atlantic on my left, and beneath me, Antarctica. And then I realized behind me that here is an opening of a strange image, that of what I now realize is an energy vortex, the tunnel. And in spirit, I disappeared down this tunnel. It was a wonderful experience. I've never traveled that fast. And remember, I'm in spirit. The physical issues that constrain us here on the earth plane are nothing compared to moving in tunnel. I mean, I saw universes and galaxies go flashing past, and I honestly thought that by some weird instance, the apartheid people had managed to get hold of an F-16 or something under the sanctions. There were rumors under apartheid that they were trying to get hold of military equipment. I thought, well, if I must be in an F-16. Where the hell I'm going, I have no idea. How I got here, I have no idea. But it sure sounds like I'm in an F-16. Then I realized I was heading towards a light at the end of the tunnel. For anyone who hasn't had an NDE, I can assure you, no matter what, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There, suddenly, I met many of my relatives who were emotionally attached. At the end of the tunnel, there I was in another realm. There was my Afrikaner Oma and Opa, my old mother and old father on my mother's side. And there was my grandfather, looking hale and hearty. He had passed a number of years before the time. And he was very happy, looking younger than I remember him. And Grandpa said to me, "Oh, I'm so pleased you wrote that book. It's a very nice book, the things you said about me." You know, what the heck has happened to Grandpa? I haven't written a book about him. Well, not in 1972 I had. I admired the old man. I really, oh, and by the way, old man is not derogatory as it
Right.
is in American English. In English, it's a compliment, Nelly. Anyway, my grandfather said I'd written a book about it. Well, I have now. It's called The Journal of Rudd, because a year I've now researched. My grandfather was born in Iowa, and he got kidnapped and thrown on board a sailing ship and landed in South Africa. And that's how the Bybees got to South Africa. I've written a book about it as he wrote it, a journal, but that's by the by. There on the other side, in this other realm that I now call death consciousness, because I was perfectly healthy and quite happy, in fact. The thing that still resonates to this moment, as I was passing through the tunnel, this wonderful voice, with the voice that I now recognize as the voice of God, issued three questions.
The blower. Sorry.
Three questions, and these three questions I realize are the most important two questions I ever had to answer. And I'm certain my research shows that many other NDEs have to answer that question, those questions as well. The first question: what have you done with the life it just passed? What life just passed? I'm still alive. I can see, I can hear, I can feel, I can think, I can move. Yeah, things aren't quite as normal as they were, but I'm still alive. Well, that's one of the most confusing things I have to encounter, because we do not die, even though we say we are dead. We aren't. The second question: whom have you loved and been loved by? Well, I said, I've been too ill. I didn't do well in high school. My mother said girls won't like me because I didn't do well. I couldn't get through algebra, etc., etc. But whom have I loved? My border collie. And I think he loves me because I keep on filling up his water bowl, and we do go for walks a lot. So, he should love me. And the third question was, what have you learned? And that completely fooled me, because here I am, a high school. I had to leave high school because of my health and one thing and another, causing just too much stress. And that's why I still stammer to an extent. And, what have I learned? And not much, but my dad used to take me mountaineering. And in answer to the being of light, I said, but I've learned mountaineering, and I've learned how beautiful the Western Cape of South Africa truly is. And completely unknowing who the voice was, I was answering this question. I said, have you seen the Western Cape? Have you been there? And there was a pause, and then the voice said, I know, I created it.
Oh.
For I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And that was my pretty decent introduction to the other side. After interacting with my
I just got to say, that is so beautiful.
It's the whole thing. The whole thing is beautiful.
Yes, it
but
is.
Yes, the interacting with my relatives, that was over. And all of a sudden, there appeared this good-looking man in what I can only describe as a Greek robe, a loincloth and a sash over his shoulder. And he said, do not be afraid. My name is Stephen. Come with me. I am your guide. And the next instance, there was the facade of a temple. And we, in spirit, I walked up I thought my way up the steps onto the portico, and I followed Stephen into the enclosure. And remember, I was a bookseller. I've been in publishing all my life, while I'm a writer now and a tech writer, and I love writing. I was a bookseller. And this is how I believe the universe speaks to us in metaphor, because down the stone path on either side of the path in front of me, inside this library, were shelf after shelf and row upon row of leather-bound tombs. beautiful books, and it stretched honestly into eternity, maybe beyond eternity. But uh, all of a sudden, I thought to myself, I wonder what is in a book. And all of a sudden, of course, forgetting that by thought I could manifest, all of a sudden in my hand, there is a leather bound book. So I thought, open, hello. And there were on either page was a glossy image of exactly what I could see in front of me. Shelf after shelf of leather bound books stretching into eternity. And I thought, page, turn, flip, shelf after shelf, image after image. Now, having thought about this wonderful image, I suspect that it was the universe telling me this is the amount of knowledge. Because to me, as a bookseller, as a publisher, as a writer, knowledge is contained in books. Well, okay, on the internet too, but in general, it's for me, it's contained in books, and that's the essence of the universe. After that, Stephen showed me some other things, and then he said, "It is time for your life review." This to me is the most important, or to me personally, the most important. In organized religion, there's very often talk of a judgmental God, or also of God as a he. That's not correct either, but of the judgment. There is no judgment as in a gray old man with a long gray beard and a book and a pen. I didn't find that. What I was shown was my life review. That's from memories from the time of conception all the way through to the moment I passed on. And it showed me events that I'd seen, that I knew, that were emotionally important to me. And I now believe that I was shown these because they were lessons that I had to learn from. And there is a number of the one that I keep telling people about. I must have been about, I told this in the experiencer panel at Irons in 2006 or 07 sometime in Virginia Beach. And I must have been about 6 or 7. My mother knew some friends, a lovely house in our hometown, and let's go for tea, the mothers, and I can go to play with this little girl by name of Bridget. Bridget and I rolling lawns in the garden, and she's pushing her pram, a little stroller that has a rag doll in it. Her mother calls her in for tea. I look at, or for cookies or whatever, I look at the stroller and the rag doll. I pick up the rag doll and I throw it in the fish pond. It comes up to the surface. I take a stone and I put a stone on top of the fish, on top of the rag doll. That night, the phone goes. Do I know where the rag doll is? The question to my mother. No, I'm a little boy. I don't play with dolls at all. And the next day, does John know where the rag doll is? No, no, I don't know where the rag doll is at all. In my NDE, I was shown the consequences of my actions. I was shown, I'm sorry, am I interrupting?
No, I'm sorry. Jim, would you please make that cat quit it? I'm throwing stuff trying to get my husband's attention.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't, I lost, oh, I was shown the consequences of my actions. The gardener eventually was able to fish out the disintegrating rag doll, and the little girl's heart was absolutely broken. I was shown that. I could feel that. And then I saw the consequences. In life, there came a relationship. It began, it ended. Then came alcoholism, then came drugs. I saw and I felt all of that. In the end, it was suicide. Now, at the Irons Convention, when I had this, I was asked, but do you blame yourself for this girl's suicide? I said, no, I don't. There are far too many variables for myself to assume the guilt of that. What I do assume the guilt for is creating the situation in the very first place. In taking the rag doll, I knew I was doing wrong. I was 6 years, 7 years old. I knew it was the naughty thing to do, but I did it anyway. Well, maybe in spirit, the little girl and I can meet up again when next time, and I can truly say, I'm sorry. But that is one of the things. And the interesting thing for me, I was at an Irons meeting here in Arizona when a well-known psychologist here at the University of Arizona, he stood up to question a speaker. And he said, I do not believe, I know how difficult it is to change the human behavior. I can't believe that the life review, or he said the near-death experience, I can't believe it changes personality. And I tried like 3-4 times to keep my mouth shut, because here I'm the new undergrad. Here I know him as a professor of psychology. I stood up and I said, if you knew who I was before my NDE, I was the shyest, most introverted person you could possibly imagine. And I was speaking to a doctor of psychology. And by coincidence, now, this afternoon, in preparing for this meeting, I got this poncho like 4 or 5 days ago. And I just put it on just to feel good. And I realized here it is a poncho with all these beautiful designs and colors and everything. If I hadn't had an NDE, I wouldn't possibly be seen alive in this, whether in my office or outside in the street. I love it. Now I love it. It's a change in personality completely. Yeah. I love color. Colors make me feel good. No, I don't like gaudiness and stuff like that. But honestly, until I was in my middle 20s, I was one of the shyest people around. Yes, I could work in a bookstore, but no, I'm introverted. Now, do I look like an introvert to you?
I'm the same way. I was so shy and introverted.
Well, and now you and I are on cameras. Congratulations. Introverts can get on camera too, can't they?
For me, it was taking the attention off of me. When I was shy, the attention was on me, what people thought when they looked at me or thought about me. And then after my NDE and I started wanting to come out about it, it wasn't about me anymore. It was
Oh,
about the heavenly realm. And
yes,
that took away my shyness because it wasn't
yes.
about me.
Yeah, because for me, people often say, but you live elsewhere. My ex used to say, come down off your cloud. Will you please come down? And
No, thank you.
yeah, exactly. No, who the hell needs? Sorry, who
I'm
needs?
pretty comfy.
Yeah, I'm quite happy where I. But that is also how I managed to write my book. And that was like the 5 years of I'm a technical a writer. I know how to write documentation for computers and complex scenarios. The 5 years I spent on writing Memories of Eternity of, whoops, do I just have a cover here?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I do. Do you mind if I put, no,
Memories of Eternity.
yeah. Anyway, I
It
don't
didn't
know.
show up really good because your background is one of those things that kind of fade everything
Oh,
out.
if, can I send you the JPEG? And
Yeah,
could you put,
sure.
all right,
Absolutely. I'll
fine.
put it in the description.
Okay. I know you said you aren't editing, so I want to keep rolling on this.
Okay.
Um, it was the most difficult 5 years of writing that I've ever had to do for one major reason. I live on, as I said, on the other side. The memories are here all the time. Now explain that to the average reader. It was not easy. It was nice to do. It's even nicer that it's now an ebook. It's on my website, jbassproductionsus.com. And the good news, I think by next week, this time, it should be on Google Books, on the book ebook module of
Okay.
Google Play. So we'll see what happens from that.
How
But
did your
anyway,
NDE end?
by me arguing with God. Uh,
Me too.
yeah, and the lesson is to anyone, don't argue with God, you won't win. Um, I honestly, I learned to argue. I said, but you want me to go back to apartheid? Why? It's so nice here. I want to stay here. I want, I want to be you. This is perfect love, etc., etc. I really don't want to go back to the harshness, the tear gas, the whoops of apartheid. I was told, and I tried this with numerous spirit. I was told in no uncertain manner, your time has not yet come, your race has not yet run. You must return. You have life lessons to learn. And before I knew it, down the tunnel I was. And then came the fun thing that I wrote a little short story about, which was a funny thing happened on the way to the morgue. Because you might think it's funny. I
Anything
didn't.
happened on the way to the morgue? I mean, that would be a good title of a book.
Well, I've got the short story. I'll send it on to you. You're welcome to post it if you want to.
Okay.
There I was on my back, looking up through what turned out to be a sheet over my face. And because I suspect that a rigor mortis had begun in my shoulder, I very painfully moved the sheet off my face and slowly and painfully sat up on the trolley, the gurney. And there were two Afrikaner porters pushing the gurney. The guy in front Now, this is 1972, all right, in a hospital. He turned around, and believe it or not, there was a cigarette hanging from the corner of his mouth. I won't translate what he said, but my next conscious recollection is that the swing doors at the bottom of the passage were doing their level best to try to remain on their hinges, and I think the Afrikaner porter is still running. I never saw him after that. He just let fly and turned around and fled. The other fellow had a whale of a job trying to call up to the neurological ward to convince the nursing sister to come down and to see that I actually was alive. All that is in a funny thing happened on the way to the morgue. Back to the NDE. The life review was really a turning point for me. I realized the consequences of my actions. And that seemed to then, of course, came what I say in Memories of Eternity. It's like a 3-line paragraph. Then came merging with the mind of God. And to this moment, right now, as I said here, Einstein had this wonderful thing when he was asked by a reporter in New Jersey, in Princeton, said, Dr. Einstein, you know so much. What more do you need to know? And Einstein replied, all I need to know are the thoughts of God. The rest is details. Well, as I sit here now, all I need now is to merge again with the mind of God. The rest is details. But that is absolutely ineffable. There is no way. I've tried. I cannot explain to you what happened. Someone asked me, can you explain perfect love? Perfect love is not, there are 3 aspects of love. There's agape, our love for each other, our love for whatever higher power we believe in, and of course, of intercourse, of sexual intercourse. That's love. But there is perfect love that is, again, ineffable. So then I pleaded, I tried to stay. Eventually, and this is an instance that I still wonder about, if it really was an illusion. All of a sudden, I see this Grecian amphitheater. And there's not a very decent looking fellow in a Greek robe again, like you, just like the spirit guides.
And this was after you come back?
No. I beg
Oh,
your
I'm sorry.
pardon. In the NDE.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. And he's lounging on the stone portico. And I look at him and he said, you are a student of mine. I said, no, I'm not. I bombed out of high school. I had to. And the next minute, everything changed, and I'm on my way back to the earth plane. A couple of years ago, at long last, I put myself through a community college and the University of Arizona. In community college, I'm taking a course in philosophy, in logic. And the instructor is going on about Aristotle. And he says, the allegory of the cave is pertinent to Aristotle. And all of a sudden, I had forgotten this completely. But there was the old man on the Greek lector, on the Greek portico, and above him was the image of bright sunlight and an arch. And it looked to me as if there were figures in chains walking shuffling slowly across the entrance and back again. And the voice said, "Look now and look again. See what will follow when a prisoner is released from his shadows." And that is what the instructor said at Pima Community College in philosophy. I swear, Peggy, I swear, I hung onto my desk. I was about to fall out of my desk because the old man in the Greek, "You will be a student of mine." I was trying to get my A grade in logic. Yes, right.
Fascinating.
Yes, to this moment, even as I tell you that. I mean, excuse me, even as I tell you this, people have said to me, "Are you sure it wasn't a dream? Are you sure it wasn't an illusion?" And of course, I've managed to get a pat answer to that. Maybe it was, but and can I prove it? No, absolutely not. Which is why I couldn't write my honors thesis in psychology, because I couldn't prove a damn thing. But the way I can, in quotes, prove it is by saying, you want proof? Okay, your turn will come. Sooner or later, your turn will come. Just wait. So that's it. Can I answer any questions for you, Becky?
What was your religious thinking before this happened?
Nothing. Well, no, I was religious in that there was the spirit of Jesus the Christ. There was this concept of God, but nothing prepared me for what I found on the other side. And let me just jump right back. I travel through the tunnel and I get to the other side and I'm confused. And this is why I wrote Memories of Eternity. I'm totally confused. I say, what place is this? Where am I now? And the voice of the being of light says, "This is what you call heaven." And then came a very interesting thought. I thought, how did this all begin? And instantly, against the purple void, I see a molecule, a greenish molecule, coming out of the right picture plane, and another one coming out of the left picture plane. And the two collided. And from that came the Big Bang. If your viewers look at my art on the website, there are colors out of the Big Bang. The oranges, the yellows, the russets, the purples, especially purple and magenta, all out of that image. The big thing, I think, whom have you loved? What are the consequences of your actions? What have you done with the life just passed?
How did you start talking about this? Was it right away? I mean, I'm sure you heard of NDE. I mean, at that 72.
No, and no again. Living under apartheid, a police state. This is 1972. Even as a bookseller, I knew that every book I sold had to go through the hands of the censors. there was no such thing as free speech. The First Amendment, I'm still getting used to it. The I learned about this in 1992 in New Jersey. New Jersey. My wife and I are in, well, my ex now, in B. Dalton in northern New Jersey. And she comes to me with this little blue book in her hand. She says, I've just read the back cover. This is a book that's written about all the things you keep talking about that you can't shut up about. Yeah, read this. And I said, we don't have enough gas to get the car back to Pennsylvania, where I was renovating an old house. He says, but this is what you keep talking about. I turned it over, The Light Beyond by Raymond Moody. Eventually, we bought the book, and yes, we had enough gas to get back to the house in Pennsylvania. I lay down that night. I read the book from cover to cover. I turned it over and read the book from cover to cover again. And then, I kid you not, I'm not too shy to say, I wept, because I realized I was not alone, that there were other people like me, and that under apartheid, I wasn't allowed to talk about this because only ministers of religion could ever talk to God. Excuse me, my phone alarm is going off again. Sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, so that is it. It took me 72. It took me a good 10 years under apartheid to try to quietly talk to a minister of religion, to try and, in fact, the padre of the church I went to, Padre Steele, a wonderful English orator. We were in the car together going back to Cape Town, and he kept asking me, and he referred me to Paul, the Apostle Paul, on the road to Damascus. And I honestly think now that the Apostle Paul and I share something in common. We both had NDEs, because Paul describes what it's like to be in spirit. Whether I wrote it down just quickly because I knew I wasn't, whether in the body or without, I know not. To this moment, it's still very difficult to think that, yes, I definitely had a sense of the self. Yes, I'm me, I'm Jack, or John as I then was. Yes, I know I'm tall, I'm slender, etc., etc. Yes, I have the sense of myself, but in retrospect, my body is being wheeled off to the morgue. You know, it's and I sympathize with the Apostle Paul. How on earth or elsewhere can, in a letter to the Romans or the Corinthians or whatever, could he explain in terms 2,000 years ago what he'd experienced? At least I can explain. There's a rationale for it. There's quantum and a whole lot of other things that we can now understand. Well, all right, is there proof for it? Not yet, but you know. So yeah, that's that. There are a couple of other things, but if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
I'm just wondering how you started to come talking about this, you know, because I know what it's like, you know, when you're shy and then this changes you, and it takes a while before you know what it's called. I mean, decades before you're able
Well,
to speak about it, and it's like
oh, yes.
evolves.
Well, Kenneth Ring, who's written some marvelous books on the NDE, his research shows that it takes about 15 to 17 years to come to grips with the uh, event. For me, it was about 16 and a half years, 1972, 1990, when we found the book. And how did I start talking about it? That again is Kenneth Ring. I met him at an Irons, the first Irons convention I went to in Connecticut. And he sat me down and he said, look, your marriage is failing and this and that, but you must understand you are talking about things to yourself and to others you can trust. And years Irons come, and he explained to me how Ken Ring, PMH Atwater, Raymond Moody's, all out of the University of the Medical School in Virginia, they formed Irons. And Ken said, we formed Irons as a place to come to unburden yourself, the near-death motel, where an experiencer can come and just talk in a safe place. Now, what you and I are doing at this moment is not a safe place, because you're recording this and it's going to be posted on YouTube and the world can see it. Okay.
See, that's a safe place to me.
Because
it's just you and I talking, and yeah, other people can watch it later, but I mean, we don't have this group of people in here saying their opinions and thinking we're not telling the truth, and all those people. And for those people who have social anxiety, they're shy, this works for me better. I mean, I can get on a stage and I can talk, but then when the people start coming around me and at me, I don't like that so much.
No, I can hold my own there too. No, I say a little prayer, guide my thoughts, guide my words, guide my deeds, go.
Yeah, I do too, but then like, get me out of here.
Yes. Anyway, so the ability, but you see, this is a lesson in itself. Here I was, the shy, introverted young man. I was young once upon a time, but you know, here I was. Now and when I interacted, I mean, I find it still to the moment very, very difficult to talk about. Why I've left this till now was the interaction with the being of light, merging with the mind of God was over. And all of a sudden, I see this man, long red hair, the most incredible compassion in his eyes, and interacting. And to this day, I still cannot understand why he told me this. But he said, you will deny me. They all do.
Wow.
And I do my best not to. But you know, my life isn't over yet. I hope that will never happen.
I feel bad about the 3 decades I kept quiet.
Well, you're making up for it, and that's But then I was told, remember that love is the greatest force in the universe. And I edited that now, and I say, and the universes that lie beyond. Because as my NDE was ending, the being of light showed me an undulating wave of orange rectangles that seemed to be moving through space. And he said, those are other universes. If you think you can go to any universe you want to. And I said, oh no, I don't know where I am now, I am certainly not going off to some other universe and I can't find my way. Now, that really is the one regret I have.
Uh,
Next time I kick the bucket, man, give me half a chance, and, and I'm going as long as I know I can get back. And I suppose if I thought about it, take me back to where I don't know where I was, but take me back to where it probably work. But you see, that is what we now are starting to understand. It's quantum. It's the effects of quantum. Uh, d- d- Death consciousness is, to me, as I understand it, I mean, I might be wrong, but it's more of a quantum environment than it is anything else. Because how could I be shown a wave of undulating universes? How could I think and like that? There's the event that can be explained in my neophyte understanding of quantum, years of photon, and way beyond Alpha Centauri, there's another photon. If the photon year changes its parameters, the photon in Alpha Centauri changes its parameters on a
and
like scale.
it amazes me when people think, oh, that Bible, it's old, it's, that's a long time ago. People believed in
Well,
that. And I think you don't understand how ancient it is, but how futuristic it is
but
at the same time.
but now again, go back 2,000 years and try and explain, try and get the Apostle Paul to explain a quantum event to disciples or to followers. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't be. Yes, I mean, I'm not knocking the Bible. What I object, or the Quran, or the Upanishads, or whatever, what I'm against is organized religion, where it comes to greed and ego and power and control. That
Yeah, I think we have that new age too. I think it's everywhere. It's just not the religious.
it's
It's the non-religious as well.
yeah, it's possible. So this is I know where I'm going. I know what's going to happen. So, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. Yeah. Oh, but the one thing on the website, when I've given talks like this and the previous podcast, a number of my people who've asked me questions, and you're most welcome. Any viewer who's got a question, you're most welcome to send me via the website. But many questions come about suicide. It's not an option. It is not an option. We all have life lessons to learn until the very last moment that we shuffle off. We have lessons to learn. I get questions. I answer by saying I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a licensed psychologist. I probably never will be. All that I've going for me is my memories of the NDE, memories of eternity. And yes, the other side is lovely. No, we all have to live, and if you really are have a problem, you don't go to your religious advisor or call the 800 number, the suicide prevention number. Killing is not an object. It's one of the reasons I divorced. My ex kept trying to get me to mow the lawn. I said, how can I be so egotistical as to be this arrogant giant that comes on vroom vroom and I mow down a blade of grass? What right do I have to kill a blade of grass? Well, that got me out of mowing the lawn, of course. But the thing is still there. I'm vegetarian. I hope in a month or two I'm going to be vegan. Killing is not an option. And the caveat, yeah, as I understand it, I'm a little bit on the iffy side of this, but if the universe is not expecting an unplanned death, they're not expecting the spirit. It upsets the balance of the universe. Right now, I pray for peace between Russia and the Ukraine and the US. Here we go again.
Yeah.
No, we don't need killing.
No.
It's just ego. Ego, I'm not choosing sides, but I'm right. No, I'm right.
Yeah,
Bang,
we
bang,
need
you dead.
peace.
Bang, bang, you dead. It doesn't work. That is not what the being of light is about.
No. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I know you don't want to stay on too long, but I think you got going there.
If you could just post my thing
Okay.
and the website
Okay.
for me, Peggy, if that's it, if you've got no more questions you want to trip me up with, that'll be fine. Many
Okay.
thanks. Namaste. Remember what Julian of Norwich intold? All will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well.
Thank
Bye.
you.
God
Bye-bye.
bless. Many thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.